the most feared man in town called the stranger his wife and revealed a shocking secret. In the heart of Dusty Ridge, a town where the sun burned and the wind whispered tales of old, one name cast a long shadow: the stranger. Whispers of his iron grip spread through the taverns like wildfire. His eyes, sharp as a snake's, held the power of life and death. It was said he could silence a room with just a glance. But now, the man everyone feared and respected had done the unthinkable. He announced to the townsfolk that he had taken a wife, and not just any wife, but a newcomer named Elise. Her arrival was shrouded in mystery, just like the summer breeze that, dans trudetan, fliqueron flirtaciones de algo amaron. Elise subió a Dusty Ridge con una belleza que le podría ver, y un aire curioso que la incorporaba como un velo. En su momento, un paro cayó sobre la calle. Los locales piraban desde puertas pulveras. ¿Quién fue esta mujer que el extranjero escogió para su vida? What did she know of his dark past, a past that was said to be littered with the remnants of violence, betrayal, and blood? As Elise walked, her boots stirring up clouds of dirt, the townspeople could feel a tension simmering. They exchanged anxious glances, whispers curling like smoke. She'll be his downfall. Someone muttered, while another murmured about how the stranger's heart was notorious for devouring those who dared come too close. But Elise didn't seem to notice. She offered smiles, trying to fit into a community steeped in its own shadows. Yet suspicions were thick, a palpable fog of doubt surrounding her as if every gaze could peel back layers of her past. And oh, how the stranger watched her. His expression was unreadable. A stone mask that tightened whenever someone spoke ill of her. But beneath that iron exterior, a storm brewed, one that could threaten their very existence. What secret lingered beneath the surface of his tough demeanor? What pain haunted him in the dead of night? The townsfolk couldn't know, and he wouldn't tell. Then, as tensions reached a boiling point, the ground shook. A gunshot echoed through the streets, the sound ricocheting off the wooden structures like the snap of a whip. Gasps erupted. The stranger moved like lightning, his instincts kicking in. But nobody moved to help him. Fear froze everyone in place, paralyzed by a mix of intrigue and terror. Elise felt a tightening in her chest, a familiar fear rising up, creeping in like dark fingers. She hadn't asked for this chaos. Now she stood on the precipice, uncertain. Could love flourish amidst such hostility? Could she find a way to navigate this fragile existence and connect with a man whose life was built on secrets? As the crowds murmured, the sound of hooves thundered in the distance. An approaching storm no one was ready for. It was coming, and with it, questions that could shatter everything they had built. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button down there to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any of the exclusive content coming up. And since you're there, drop that powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know each amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The thunder of hooves drew nearer, a dark shadow rising against the backdrop of the sunset. The townsfolk felt a rush of fear, but they were frozen, caught in the gravity of the moment. Elise's heart raced. each beat drum-rolling a deep sense of impending doom. The blow of the gunshot still echoed in her ears, reverberating like a haunting melody. Suddenly, a figure burst into view, a rider cloaked in black, framed by the dusty horizon. He pulled his horse to a stop, kicking up dirt that swirled like a storm. Hooded, the stranger's face was obscured, but the townsfolk could feel. En un unmistakable chill radiante estaba él. Huéspedes se contagiaron por el huerto como volverían. ¿Quién es ese? ¿Qué quiere? Pero Elise sintió algo más profundo, un impulso en el pecho de repente para una sensación de miedo. El rider desmontado suavemente, sus movimientos fluidos, escaparon de la gente de la campaña sombriosas como el silencio. Fue un gosto que para mí había sido enerrado. Liam, Elise brilla. El nombre se escapó de su hombro como secreto que nunca quiso compartir. Los ojos del extrañero se emperraron, fuego ardiendo detrás de su mirada. Liam, Elise gritó, enojada por el momento. As if her feet were glued to the ground. Her breaths came quick, panic rising like bile. Memories flooded back, the shared laughter, the promise of forever, the betrayal that tore her world apart. Did you really think you could escape? Liam's voice cut through the rising tension, smooth yet laced with danger. He stepped closer, and with every step, the air thickened. You've made a deal with the devil, Elise. He doesn't know you. His eyes flicked to the stranger, lingering with a knowing glance that carried weight. Nor does he know what you've left behind. Elise felt the world tilt beneath her. The stranger's hands clenched tightly at his sides, muscles taut like a bowstring. Anger and confusion danced in its expression, a storm brewing beneath the surface. The townsfolk murmured, their whispers heavy with judgment. Panic spread like wildfire. Who is this man? What does he know? You don't understand, Elise said, her voice trembling. I chose to leave that life behind. Did you? Liam interjected, his eyes boring into hers. You think you can outrun the past? This isn't just your story. It's a thread woven through this whole town. Elise felt el vuelo de sus palabras, presionándola, afocándola. Súbitamente, un grito se personó el aire. Una figura lolea de la multitud con una arma levantada alta. El tiro sonó, más fuerte que el primero. Una colectiva gritada, pánico se quedó, y nada. Gale se ruptó. The bullet encontró el target. De Teddy's se alargó los ojos llenos de cierre. Shock. Se largó entonces en el despejo. Una energía caótica circulando alrededor. El extraño se levantó, agarrando a Liam como un muñeca de aladarea. Por un momento todo se pausó. El tiempo juntó delicadamente en el aire. El corazón de Elise se rompió con la vista. El pensamiento del extraño se torció con su lengua. Él oró en otra sesión. Ismundo le reflejó en Liam, con la muerte en él. ¿Por qué he venido aquí? Que el hombreo estrecho de Liam, la sangre se rompió con su tartaca en el pueblo. El amor que iba entero, la cadena comienza seminterminable. Tensión Tikhonov de cortar. What had she unleashed? As the darkness settled and chaos reigned, one question hung heavy in the air, unanswered and trailing like smoke. What price would be paid for the truth? The ground was a tapestry of fear and confusion, blood pooling beside the fallen figure of Liam, an unwelcome ghost from Elise's murky past. Chaos enveloped the town as surprised faces turned toward the stranger, who held Liam tightly in his powerful arms. La tensión en el aire fue tanta que matar. El tiempo se paró, pero el corazón se revoló. ¿Qué está pasando? Alguien jaló de la multitud, y un murmural de voces angustiadas de revolución. Elise se sentó adelante, en él. By the lifeblood seeping into the dust, her hands shook. "Please, someone help him!" Her voice cracked, a desperate plea into the chaos. But nobody moved. They stood frozen, paralyzed by the scene unfolding before them. Liam gasped for air, his breaths ragged. "Elise, you have to listen," he managed to choke out. His eyes darted to the stranger, who remained still, a stone facade hiding a tempest of emotions. But just as Elise leaned closer, a high-pitched wail sliced through the air. Rising above the murmurs, the crowd turned. A figure pushed through, a woman in a tattered dress, her hair wild and eyes wild with panic. "No," she screamed, racing toward them. "You must stop this!" "Elisa!" someone yelled, their tone dripping with disbelief. The name shocked through the crowd, awakening dread. Tension snapped. Elise's heart fell to her stomach. "What do you mean, stop this?" She was anchored to the spot, her mind racing. Liam's eyes flickered past the stranger's intent gaze and found Elisa. "You're back?" he wheezed, blood bubbling between his lips. "I had to come." Elisa's voice trembled, filled with a rising terror. "It's him. He's the reason we're all in danger." The wind shifted, and a tense silence enveloped the crowd, each person hanging on her words. "What do you mean?" Elise's voice was small, lost among the turmoil. Elise's hand shot out shaking. "The stranger, he's not who you think. He's not just a man with a dark past. He's been hunting us." Gasps popped through the crowd. The weight of her words hung like a storm cloud, threatening to burst. "What?" The stranger's words were flat, but every eye turned to him, watching for a battle within his expression. "Liam didn't betray you. He was trying to protect you from him." Illumination dawned in Elise's eyes, but it was overshadowed by a sinking dread. She felt the world tilt again. Everything she thought she knew shattered like glass. "What are you saying?" As Elisa demanded the truth, a low growl reverberated from deep within the stranger's throat. "Is this how you repay loyalty?" His tone shifted, sharp as a whip. Then came silence, heavy and poprese, followed by a low moan from Liam. The blood expresó también sobre la tierra, una nube crisada en el arena. No lo quería. El corazón de Elise desplentó en mi vientre con el peso de la traición que orbitaba entre de ella. La protección que pensaba que ofrecía ahora era una mentira, troncada y malvada, y la luz de Liam volvía a controvertirse en el vestuario de la piel, revelando una flash de vulnerabilidad, una quiebra en su máscara de hierro. Antes de que pudiera procesar, un disparo sonó por primera vez. No fue de Liam encontrado, sino tomada directamente al extranjero. Se polaron de la mano patente del extranjero. Whizzed past. Chaos erupted anew. Screams, panic shouts, the sound of hooves thundering against the dry earth. "What did you do?" Elise shouted, her words a cascade of disbelief, confusion buzzing like angry bees. "Run!" screamed Elisa, urging everyone to flee. But Elise couldn't move. There was too much to comprehend, too many truths unraveling around her like strands of a tattered tapestry. One thing was clear. Nothing would ever be the same. The true intent behind their existence in Dusty Ridge was just beginning to unfurl, and all it left in its wake was darkness, uncertainty, and fear. And as confusion twisted the threads of fate, one question loomed. Who could ever be trusted in a town where shadows reigned? Elise barely registered. The chaos around her, her mind spinning like a whirlwind. The shadows of confusion and despair loomed thick, blocking out the light. The crowd erupted in panic, voices blending into an anxious hum, the air thick with fear. "The stranger," someone shouted. "He's the one we should be afraid of." But Elise couldn't focus on the whispers. All she saw was Liam, crumpled in the stranger's arms, blood soaking the ground, pooling like dark ink against the dust. Time ticked painfully slow, and in that fragile moment, everything seemed to stretch. The stranger's hands were firm, but Elise could see his facade cracking, lips pressed into a thin line, eyes blazing with intensity. He shifted, cradling Liam while keeping a wary eye on Elisa. "What do you know about me?" The stranger's voice was low, simmering like a pot about to boil over. Elisa stepped forward, trembling. "You don't know what you've unleashed. Your past is hunting us all." A gasp rolled through the crowd again. This time, it was sharper than before. The energy turned electric. Elise felt her heart tighten. "What do you mean? This doesn't make sense." Elisa shot back, her breaths rapid. "The stranger isn't just a name. It's a shadow that looms over Dusty Ridge. He's tied to something much bigger than you realize." As if awakening from a deep slumber, the townsfolk murmured, glancing at the stranger as if seeing him for the first time. "You're here to protect the town?" someone questioned. "No," Elise said, shaking her head. "He saved me, I thought." "Thought? Wrong," Elisa interjected. "You don't escape the ties that bind. The stranger is a curse, not a savior. He's been deceiving you, manipulating everything." The mood shifted. Eyes narrowed. Suspicion thickened, wrapping around the stranger like a noose. Elise's pulse raced. The weight of the accusations lay heavy in the air. "What happened between Liam and you?" Elise demanded, anger raciando como vila. "Why can't I trust you?" But before the stranger could answer, another gunshot shattered the tension, ringing out with explosive clarity. A heartbeat of silence fell, then gasps erupted. The crowd parted like water, and from behind a tangle of fearful faces, an unrecognizable figure stood, rocking on their feet, a gun still smoking in hand. "Why don't you ask her?" the figure shouted, voice harsh and broken. Elise squinted. It was a woman, her face twisted with rage and desperation. "It's all a lie, Elise. Everything you think you know." Stunned, Elise's breath caught in her throat. "Who are you?" "Your sister," she spat, eyes blazing. "And I'm here to finish what you started." The crowd erupted into chaos again, voices layering upon each other, confusion blooming like wildflowers in spring. Elise felt the ground shift beneath her. Her heartbeat thundered. "No." The townsfolk murmured, shock painted on every face. The stranger's expression remained unreadable, but a flicker of something dark darted across his features. A muscle in his jaw twitched. "Your sister," the stranger said slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. "She's been scared all this time. I can't protect you both from what I've unleashed." Elise staggered backward, reality crashing like thunder. "No, this can't be happening." Yet deep inside her, a cold realization settled in. This moment, raw and pulsating, felt like the unraveling of everything she thought she knew. Her sister had returned, and the truth sprawled wide open without warning, tangled roots of deceit twisting through their lives. The chaos roared around her, but instead of fear, a spark ignited within. With trembling hands, Elise took a step forward, determination flooding her veins. "What did you mean, unfinished?" Before she could grasp the answer, another gunshot echoed, cutting through the air again. Bodies surged, arms flailing. Everything froze. In the midst of it all, a crystal-clear realization shattered the night. Their fates were entwined in a web of lies that would change them forever. And as fear twisted itself around every face, one question haunted the shadows. What had they awakened? Elise barely registered the chaos around her, her mind spinning like a whirlwind. The shadows of confusion and despair loomed thick, blocking out the light. The crowd erupted in panic, voices blending into an anxious hum, the air thick with fear. Then another gunshot rang out, echoing through the dust. A wave of panic surged, drowning out the whispers of betrayal. The crowd split, gasping and retreating, revealing a figure standing tall, gun raised high. This time, the stranger. His eyes glinted like sharp glass, and the townsfolk shrank back in fear. "Get back!" he shouted, voice thunderous, but it was too late. Elise screeched, scrambling backwards. "No! No more bloodshed!" But the bullet flew from the stranger's gun, slamming into a distant figure cloaked in shadows. The crowd gasped. Who had he aimed at? In that moment, the air shifted. Throughout the panic, Elise felt a crack of disbelief. "What are you doing?" she cried, holding her hands up in instinctive defense. Only when the dust settled did realization sink in. The figure sprawled. In the dirt, a body. A face slowly unveiled in the fading light, and her heart sunk deeper than ever. It was a familiar face, twisted in shock, eyes wide. The last person she ever expected to see. "Marie," Elise muttered, the name slipping like smoke from her lips. Her sister's childhood friend, the one who had been lost in the turmoil that had haunted Elise for years. The blood pooled against the dirt, a grim reminder of her life now. Elise's breath caught tight in her throat. "Marie, no!" She rushed forward, but the stranger's strong hand grabbed her wrist. "Stay back!" he barked. But all Elise could see was the girl she had laughed and played with, lying motionless, the light fading from her eyes. "Help her, please!" Elise shouted, desperate. But the stranger only tightened his grip, eyes sharp as daggers. "You don't understand." Elise's voice trembled, breaking through the chaos. "You've done this! Why, stranger?" The crowd murmured, puzzled. They turned their attention to him, a storm brewing in their expressions. "Elise!" Marie gasped, trying to reach, but her voice fell short. "They don't know. They don't know who they're dealing with." "What do you mean?" Elise begue, tienes puliendo sus ojos. "Telme, una última mano muerta." Mariel escuchó algo para Elise. "Salva al pueblo, de él." Un recinto en su espalda, chocante en su intensidad. Preguntas rastradas en su mente, pero antes de que pudiera process them, the sky above darkened. A storm rolled in. The once vibrant town lay heavy, and an unnatural chill settled over Dusty Ridge. From the shadows emerged a tall, menacing figure, shrouded in darkness, moving with an energy that felt like crushing inevitability. The townsfolk felt an overwhelming dread, an instinctual warning peppering the air. "Who are you?" a voice cried out amidst the confusion. The newcomer's face glimmered in the fading light, revealing features so familiar they left Elise gasping. "Your father, Elise," he stated, matter-of-factly, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. The earth seemed to still, breaths caught on nerves, turning towards her with astonishment. Her father? Here? After all these years of believing he was gone? "Dad," she whispered, not daring to believe. Heart-pounding, she took a step forward. Everything she thought se entendió, shatterió entre fragmentos. Detalles de silencio y de nigale se agarraban a su mente, inspirándose de control. "No", the stranger roared. Se pone a la frente de juntarla. Pero era muy tarde. La revelación se partió del aire, tosando todo en caos. Secretos desvelados, paulateando en el espacio frágil entre ellos. ¿Por qué ahora? Elise shouted, angry stripas, "What are you doing here?" He stepped closer, an all-knowing smirk twisting his lips. "Because it's time to end this." Suddenly a flash of darkness surged from behind him, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. The crowd fell silent, eyes wide in horror, sensing the dread of the storm about to break. What had they awakened? The true battle was only beginning, and as storms brewed overhead, the chilling truth echoed loudly. Truth is never what it seems. The fight for survival had just morphed into something much darker. And as Elise watched shadows shift and swirl, one thought twisted in her mind. Everything she knew was about to come crashing down. Elise stared at her father, emotions crashing over her like waves in a storm. The breath hitched in her throat. How could he just appear after all these years? Her mind raced, confusion gripping her as the chaos swirled around them. The townsfolk stood frozen, caught between disbelief and fear. Todo se sentía al revés. Pensé que te habías ido, susurró, con el corazón adolorido. ¿Ido? Él se burló. Una sombra se extendió por su rostro. ¿Realmente crees que podrías escapar de mí así? No, ella dijo, sacudiendo la cabeza. Tú nos dejaste. Pero antes de que su conversación pudiera profundizarse en la esencia de los años perdidos, el suelo retumbó ominosamente debajo de ellos. Un fuerte crujido resonó. Una luz cegadora brilló desde un bolsillo oculto de oscuridad detrás de su padre. Elise dio un paso atrás, cubriéndose los ojos mientras una figura emergía de las sombras. Joven, feroz, un torbellino de energía. ¡Alto!, gritó la nueva llegada, su voz perforando la confusión. «No puedes hacer esto. No aquí. No ahora». Elise parpadeó. El reconocimiento la invadió. «Hello. Y tú es el yango hermano David, el que se había quedado sin sueño». «David», chigaspó. «¿Estás vivo?» He darted forward. Confusión entre su cara. Urgencia tragando de cada movimiento. He looked from their father to her, miedo por el colmo de sus ojos. «Elisa, por favor, ábate de él». «Why?» Su voz tremía anidada de dudas. «Elise, no aquí. David shouted. He's been plotting on you, the town». «Alma». Elise sintió el mundo caer de nuevo. Su realidad sembraba más extraña. Los murmuros de la multa apretaban los sustos como una soga. «What does he mean?» Alguien preguntó. Ojos grandes, buscando comprensión. In the chaos, David stepped closer, urgency radiating off him. «He's not just here for you, Elise. He's here for the power the town holds. Our family was cursed, and you're at the center of it. You're the key to it all." The crowds gasped, shock rippling through them, eyes darting from Elise to her father. «What key?" she demanded, frustration lacing her words. «What are you talking about?" Before David could respond, another thunderous sound broke through. The gunshot tore the air, the fight-or-flight instinct sending a wave of panic through everyone present. Elise ducked instinctively, but the shot was aimed not at her father or the stranger. This time, it was aimed at David. «No!» Elise screamed, but it felt as if the world moved in slow motion. The bullet struck home, and time folded in on itself. David fell, hitting the ground with a sickening thud. Elise felt her heart shatter, the air leaving her lungs. «David!» She rushed to his side, ignoring the chaos erupting around her. «No, no, no, please!» She cradled him, tears spilling down her cheeks as she pressed her hands against the wound. The crowd gasped in horror, murmurs rising in a wave of frenzy. «Who shot him?» Someone yelled. «What's happening?» Amid the chaos, The stranger moved, but not towards Elise. He knelt beside her, eyes only for her brother. "Stay with me, kid," he said, his voice low and steady. "You're gonna be all right." Elise luchó, angefliando incidente del aire. "No te importa él." "No lo tienes", respondió el Sebe. "Pero no solo es un niño." Una copa, Elise voltó hacia atrás impactada. El padre lo hizo, siempre lo hizo. Su cara tresturada en furia. ¿Usted cree que puede traicionarme a mí? Recuerde que todo es un caos. Elise sintió algo que cambiaba, una fuerza poderosa a punto de desembocar. La tierra tembló, un tremor rastrero hacia una estrecha corriendo el cuerpo. Estaba dividiéndose de una a una. True, every relationship, every bond, every whisper of love and betrayal merged into chaos. And as the dust settled, one shocking thought lingered in the air. What if the curse was not on the town, but on her bloodline itself? What if everything was all a lie? Elise knelt beside David, her breath ragged, as she felt the warmth of his blood pooling beneath her hands. Time seemed to crawl, the world around her fading into a distant hum. Panic surged through her veins like wildfire. "Stay with me, David, please." Tears blurred her vision, her heart racing as she tried to apply pressure. But nothing mattered now except keeping him alive. A whirlwind of chaos erupted around them. The crowd gasped, fear rippling through them like a wave crashing against the shore. The air thickened with desperation. The stranger, still tense and guarded, searched for an escape route through the panic, but he couldn't look away from the scene before him. "Get up, David, please." Elise squeezed her brother's hand, the warmth slipping away. But he lay still, eyes fluttering closed as if the weight of the world had pressed him down. "Why? Why did this happen?" Elise cried out, her voice cracking. The crowd hushed, terrible curiosity glinting in their eyes. They moved closer, whispering amongst themselves, unable to look away from the unfolding horror. "I didn't mean to," David murmured, struggling for breath. "I wanted to protect you." Panic suffocated Elise. Blurriendo las hechas de su vida. Sodamente el atmósfera cambió. Un ruido dimante grande ecotó a través de las alturas. El cielo se hendía de nubes, nubes oscuras elevándose a la calle. El turbo de nieve decía que cambiaba con alegría, posada también totalmente con voloscarlos a los brazos. "Mira, aquello que está mirando, me vuelve pesado a ver lo que pasa. El viento amenazó tanto que la firma se había derramado." En otra voz tremió, corría cansando el pánico. "Viene." Entonces, un espectáculo cegante se ha colpeñado por el momento. Elise se quedó en sus ojos, con alguien estaba siguiendo la mano. De pronto se volvió una figura masiva del Berice. Shadows, cloaked in smoke and fury, taureando a boba mi noche como un desmayado. Un ruido gutural se gastado a través del aire. "No", escrimió Elise, realizando por un instante que quedaba quien era. La cara de la figura se veía con un rostro incomprensible. "Sé a mí, el corazón que baja como piedras. Papá, ¿por qué me forzaste?" Una voz ecoó de entre la multitud. But not the man she remembered. His eyes, once warm, now burned like coals of fury. "You think you can choose a life without me?" Elise's mind reeled. You were the curse?" "Too late to play innocent," he hissed, eyes narrowing as he stepped closer, shadows twisting around him like living beings. "I am what binds this town. I am the darkness you can't escape." The crowd gasped, murmurs rising like a crescendo of shock. Each glance exchanged was a fracture in their already thin trust. Elise couldn't breathe, her heart racing. No, it can't be true. The stranger's grip tightened as he instinctively moved to protect her. "Stay back," he shouted, eyes fixed on her father. The moment hung in the air like a loaded gun, tense and dangerous. And just as tension reached its peak, David stirred beneath Elise, eyes fluttering open wide. "Elise, listen to me," he gasped, grabbing her hand. "David, you're alive!" A flicker of hope ignited within her momentarily, but horror took hold once again as she felt the twisted reality around them. "I didn't just escape. I learned," he struggled to explain, voice strained. "The power, it's in our blood, Elise. You must face what you were born into." Her father laughed, a dark, haunting sound that echoed through the streets. "You can't escape the truth. She belongs to me." As chaos erupted in the town, feelings of fear and betrayal twined together, drawing everyone into a web of confusion. The storm surged overhead, thunder cracking like bones. Elise felt the first raindrop fall, a harbinger of the turmoil to come. But the truth was unraveling now, and one question loomed over them all. What had they awakened? Elise knelt beside David, her heart pounding as she felt the warmth of his blood pooling beneath her hands. Time slowed, her breaths shallow and frantic. "Stay with me, David! You can't leave me!" Panic surged, drowning out the cries of the terrified crowd. Around them, chaos erupted. People stumbled backward, fear mirrored in their eyes. The wind howled, dark clouds casting a shadow over Dusty Ridge, brewing the unthinkable. The rage in her father's eyes was a storm. "You don't know what you're meddling in." He took a step forward, voice booming, causing the ground to tremble. "You think you can defy me?" But then an eerie silence fell over the crowd, and Elise sensed something. Shifting in the air, a crackling energy flowed around her, rising like smoke, and in that moment, her world tilted dangerously. Before she could fully register what was happening, a blinding light erupted from the center of the street. "Get down," the stranger yelled, pulling Elise close. Light enveloped them, blinding and hot, and in an instant, everything exploded in a blinding flash. When the light faded, the ground felt different. Elise blinked, disoriented, and when her eyes adjusted, the air was thick with silence. The crowd stood frozen, mouths agape, but it was what lay before them that left them breathless. A figure appeared, seemingly out of nowhere, rising from the shimmering light. Time suspended. Who are you?" Elise stammered. "Hervos verle aún espera." The figure stepped forward, revealing a familiar face cloaked in shadows. It was her mother, alive, young, vibrant. The crowds gasped, a collective intake of breath echoing like a windstorm. "Elise," she said, her voice wrapping around Elise like a warm embrace. "Mom?" Tears sprung to Elise's eyes as disbelief morphed into sheer joy. "Is it really you?" "Yes, sweetheart," her mother replied, but the joy in her eyes quickly dimmed. "I came because it's time for the truth." Elise's heart raced, emotions colliding. What truth? But before her mother could answer, something changed in the atmosphere. The darkness in her father deepened, twisting like dark smoke around them. "You weren't supposed to come back," he roared. "You left. You abandoned us." A chilling laugh escaped her mother's lips. "Abandon? Oh no, I never left you. Not really." "What do you mean?" Elise's voice cracked. "Why did you go?" "I was protecting you, both of you," her mother said, eyes locking on David. "Your father's curse transcends life and death. It intertwines with our bloodline and threatens everything. I had to keep you away." Elise felt the ground slip beneath her. "So you left? You left us alone with him?" But before the pain of truth could settle, Elise's mother raised her hands, energy swirling around her. No more running. No more hiding. You need to embrace what you are. All of you. In that instant, the air crackled. David le da un agrón. Iñaitos, sus ojos llenos de desesperación. Elise, por favor. Es verdad. Le emocionó abatadora del dolor. Somos parte de algo antiguo, una fuerza de valor que podemos comprender. Nuestra familia ha sido así. Las revelaciones gemelean el estómago. ¿Entonces qué? ¿Me tengo que aceptar eso? ¿Aceptarlo a él? Se aguoló entre froces. Pero ya entonces, su padre levantó una mano, un poder oscuro en su palma. ¡Enough! Evoló. El poder de él crepó en respuesta a su madre. Nuevas mueves volando alrededor del universo. Elise se sentía al punto de ellas. Otra figura humana apareció de la oscuridad. Sactodín, como una estrella brillante. No, de voz se quema en Chile, llenado de rabia y de entraña. Era Elisa, pero estaba diferente, garante y desesperada. No puedes confiar a ninguno de ellos. Elise se quedó atrás. ¿Qué quiere decir, Elisa? Gitándole una batalla fuerte. Tu pasado es complicado. Secretos más profundos que reconoces. Te necesitan por un propósito. Elisa sintió el peso de su vida presionando. Confusión suerte como un estormo en su casa. 1. Hasta la oscuridad descendió y las verdades se colidieron. Elisa se quedó relacionada con la inquietud que todos habían tenido. Un pensamiento a la raza. El brillo de por estar en la sacros y lleno. ¿Qué podrían confiar en todos? Y es increíble que sienta en David. Sí que abraza a todos para que el cuerpo lo sienta. Desaparece pronto. Siente mientras en el caos he tosido, porque el temblor había entrado. Piedades a la raza. Entonces temprano, llegando a casa, te reconocen que me pueden hacer cargo de la mano. The wind howled, dark clouds casting a shadow over Dusty Ridge, brewing the unthinkable. The rage in her father's eyes was a storm. You don't know what you're meddling in. He took a step forward, voice booming, causing the ground to tremble. You think you can defy me? But then an eerie silence fell over the crowd, and Elise sensed something shifting in the air. A crackling energy flowed around her, rising like smoke, and in that moment her world tilted dangerously. Before she could fully register what was happening, a blinding light erupted from the center of the street. "Get down!" the stranger yelled, pulling Elise close. Light enveloped them, blinding and hot, and in an instant, everything exploded in a blinding flash. When the light faded, the ground felt different. Elise blinked, disoriented, and when her eyes adjusted, the air was thick with silence. The crowd stood frozen, mouths agape. But it was what lay before them that left them breathless. A figure appeared, seemingly out of nowhere, rising from the shimmering light. Time suspended. Who are you?" Elise stammered, her voice barely a whisper. The figure stepped forward, revealing a familiar face cloaked in shadows. It was her mother, alive, young, vibrant. The crowds gasped, a collective intake of breath, echoing like a windstorm. "Elise," she said, her voice wrapping around Elise like a warm embrace. "Mom?" Tears sprung to Elise's eyes as disbelief morphed into sheer joy. "Is it really you?" "Yes, sweetheart," her mother replied, but the joy in her eyes quickly dimmed. "I came because it's time for the truth." Elise's heart raced, emotions colliding. What truth? But before her mother could answer, something changed in the atmosphere. The darkness in her father deepened, twisting like dark smoke around them. "You weren't supposed to come back," he roared. "You left! You abandoned us!" A chilling laugh escaped her mother's lips. "Abandon? Oh no, I never left you. Not really. What do you mean? Elise's voice cracked. Why did you go? I was protecting you, both of you, her mother said, eyes locking on David. Your father's curse transcends life and death. It intertwines with our bloodline and threatens everything. I had to keep you away. Elise felt the ground slip beneath her. So you left? You left us alone with him? But before the pain of truth could settle, Elise's mother raised her hands, energy swirling around her. No more running. No more hiding. You need to embrace what you are. All of you. In that instant, the air crackled. David let out a groan, struggling for breath, his eyes filled with desperation. Elise, please, it's true. He swallowed hard, voice thick with pain. We're part of something ancient, a force beyond what we can comprehend. Our family. It's always been this way. The revelations churned in Elise's stomach. So what? I'm supposed to accept this? Accept him? She pointed at her father, fear tangling with fury. But just then, her father raised a hand, a dark power surging in his palm. Enough, he bellowed. The power in him crackled in response to her mother. Storm clouds swirling as if the universe held its breath. Elise's heart raced as another human figure appeared from the darkness, sudden, fierce, like a burning star. No! The voice sliced through the air, filled with rage and betrayal. It was Elise, but she looked different, worn and desperate, eyes blazing. You can't trust either of them. Elise staggered back. What do you mean? Everything you've been told is a lie, Elise shouted. Your past. It's complicated. Secrets run deeper than you realize. They need you for a purpose. Then, in an explosion of truth and chaos, silence fell again. Elise felt the weight of their lives pressing down. Why would you know? Elise challenged, feeling heat rise in her chest. You're just trying to protect yourself. But Elise smiled, a sinister, knowing smile that chilled Elise to the bone. You think any of this matters? Your family is a facade, a web of lies, and the truth has always been closer than you realize. The ground shook beneath them again, and Elise could barely catch her breath. What do you mean? She gasped. And then a sudden realization hit her like a slap. You were never just his friend. You were part of it too. Elise's gaze darkened, and suddenly her form shimmered, wavering like a mirage. Her features twisted, agony flashing across her face. Panic swept through the murmuring crowd. Oh God, no, no, no! Elise backed away, terror pooling in her stomach. You can't be. With a final, horrified scream, Elise transformed, not into another person, but into a grotesque reflection of her father. Dark eyes gleaming with malice, she clutched at her throat, choking on the truth. The curse, it's a cycle, and you, Elise, will play your part. The crowd gasped, confusion morphing into dread. Elise felt her heart race faster than she thought possible. Imagine trusting a ghost, thinking she was just looking out for you. As all eyes were glued to the unfolding horror, Elise understood with chilling clarity. The curse was never about one person. It was a family bond woven into their very existence. And as shadows stretched and the storm raged outside, one thought burned in Elise's mind. Was her life merely a pawn in an ancient game designed to keep the cycle alive? It felt like everything she knew was about to unravel completely. Elise's heart raced as she knelt next to David, holding his hand, the warmth slipping away. Her mother stood before them, energy swirling, a figure of raw power. The storms above rumbled, reflecting the turmoil within. "David!" she cried, panic bubbling over. "Stay with me. You can't leave." Tears flowed freely down her cheeks. In that moment, David's eyes flickered open, a spark of awareness shimmering. Elise. His voice was shaky, but filled with a determination she hadn't seen before. You need to listen. The curse, it's on our blood. We can break it together. What? She gasped, desperation clawing at her throat. How can we fight this? He's our father. Her mother stepped closer, expression fierce. You have the power, Elise. You just need to accept it. Embrace who you are. But what if that means becoming like him? Elise shot back, rage mixed with fear. No. David's grip tightened. You are stronger. You can choose to be more than him. Then her father stepped forward, dark energy coiling around him like venomous vines. You think you can turn against me? You're foolish to think you can escape your fate. The crowd gasped, eyes wide with terror. Look out! Someone shouted as shadows scaled the walls around them. Enough! Elise shouted back, voice strong, shaking with the weight of her emotions. You don't control me anymore. The air crackled. Her mother raised her arms, a bright light bursting forth, illuminating the darkness that had stretched for so long. It felt like the sun breaking through a storm. The crowd gasped, each person drawn to the brilliance enveloping them. But her father snarled, darkness twisting around him, trying to steal the light. Stop! He roared, lunging forward. But Elise felt a surge of power within her. A fire ignited, wrapping her in warmth. Mom! David! Let's do this! The three set their gaze on her father, standing united against the encroaching shadows. With a combined force, they pushed back against the darkness, their energies merging into a blinding wave. The ground shook, and the air hummed with energy. The townsfolk dropped to their knees, covering their eyes. There was a heartbeat of silence, then a final eruption of light, as a force the likes of which Dusty Ridge had never seen radiated outward. As the brightness dimmed, Elise blinked, feeling the cool air wash over her. Her father staggered back, his dark powers unraveled into dust. No, he bellowed, a sound of pure despair. You will regret this. In that moment, he vanished, consumed by the light they had wielded together, the shadows dissipating like mist under the sun. Elise knelt over David, cradling his head in her. Lapa, esperándome por me pegó aquí, y él regresó, con una sonrisa voraz, lejos de importancia. Gracias, David. Y en la espontánea todos se postraron. El amor que andaba en su corazón, se encabezando, fue con el reto de las heladas. De en extremos sabores. Elise respiró muy leve. Sentó a su madre con orgullo en sus ojos. Es tiempo de curarse. Con sueño. Over Dusty Ridge, painting the sky with shades of gold and crimson, Elise knew this was just the beginning. While their past was still there, the future glimmered with hope. But as they turned to face the onlookers, Elise couldn't shake a lingering doubt. Dark forces didn't easily disappear. What if something was still waiting in the shadows? Feeling the weight of unresolved questions, she glanced at her brother, who mirrored her uncertainty. Stay safe, she whispered, and he nodded in understanding, knowing the road ahead wouldn't be easy. With a heavy heart, yet a flickering flame of hope, Elise reached for David's hand. Together, they would confront whatever awaited them, always together. And as the last light of day faded into darkness, one last thought echoed through Dusty Ridge. The battle might be over, but the story was far from finished. Now, listen up. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel. Don't miss a single exclusive story coming your way. Smash that like button now. It fuels the algorithm and helps us reach more amazing people like you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. I'm dying to know what you think. And for the love of all things good, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait one more second. Let's build this community together.